So this one
I
has
can't
an
say these
insidious
name. I'm Catholic.
Okay,
Excuse me, it's Padre Figaro Spirito Santos.
I'm exited Catholic, so I can say it for you. HR 6666 pasta.
Yes.
Tell me about what HR 6666 does. I love that.
Well, it's a controversial bill. We've had some friends going crazy about it. It had some controversial co-sponsors on it too, including my friend Tulsi Gabbard. But this bill, and I think it's best to explain it to you. It's when I talk about the civil liberties all the time, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, God, you and your civil liberties. But these are the times when they're really under attack. More than likely, people the government will put actions into play. They'll pass bills for a crisis, and then they won't undo them when the crisis is over. Right. 666 is one of those situations. Now, I think it's best explained, and it is one of those situations. If you believe the coronavirus is deadly, if you believe that it could spread like wildfire and you want to really contain it, you might be for this bill. Rashida Tlaib is on this bill as a co-sponsor. Tulsi Gabbard's on this bill for a co-sponsor. However, having the ability to separate your family when something like this is kind of, that's the thing. They're using it as a wedge to say, hey, the government can come in, take Johnny out of the household because we believe he has coronavirus and take him away and you guys can't see him and that's it. So we have to be careful and we have to tiptoe. I mean, Tim Ryan's on this bill. Rashida Tlaib is on this bill. Tulsi Gabbard. Debbie Wasserman Schultz is on this bill. That's the thing that really, I would like the Congresswoman to say, hey, you know what? I'm signing a bill where Debbie Wasserman Schultz is a co-sponsor. Maybe I shouldn't be on that fucking bill. Your friend Harley Rauda again as well.
We can give her the opportunity to explain why.
Yeah,
exactly. Well, Tulsi is one of those people. Remember when it was the coronavirus stuff she was saying in her town halls? Even I was like, come on, man. I don't want to hear. But she is very concerned about pandemics and that we should be prepared. Yeah. And this could be like, what's the word I'm looking for? When something's gone wrong and you're kind of just trying to mop it up. What do they call it in the business world? Something control.
Damage control.
Damage control of sorts. Yeah. Where they're saying we have to really nip this in the butt. We've let it gone too far. We didn't have the testing. We didn't have all the machines. We didn't have everything to stop this in its track. And I'm not going to blame just Donald Trump. This is talking about our administration from years to come. They're so easy and so helpful to help out businesses, but yet they're not going to be prepared for the little people down below when a pandemic comes, fam, that we can't get tested. And the testing we have right now sucks as is from everything we're saying.
It doesn't,
Do you want to go over a little bit of Batar's video? And he says he'd get in a minute into it because I think he has a lot of jibber jab. And
I got you.
I don't know what to think about this here. You guys have to give me your opinion.
Perfect. So everybody can hear me. Thank you guys for tuning in. You guys got to let everybody know this message that I'm about to give you because this is something that I just found out. It's beyond belief. This is regarding a House resolution that was initiated on May 1st of this year, like 4, 5, 6 days. Well, I don't even know what day it is right now, but it was May 1st introduced into the U.S. Congress. It's a House Resolution 6666. That is not an exaggeration. I have no idea how this works, but this is what the actual House Resolution number is, 6666. And I'm going to read you what that House Resolution is. Please make sure that you pass this on to every single person that you know. I don't care whether you're in the United States or not, you got to get this information out. House Rule 66 or House Resolution 6666 is for COVID-19 testing, reaching, and contacting everyone Act. The acronym is TRACE Act. Again, TRACE Act stands for testing, reaching, and contacting everyone. It was introduced by Bobby Rush, who is a Democrat from the state of Illinois. And they have introduced this bill into the House, and they're going to roll this out from a testing standpoint in Ventura County, California, which happens to be where I'm at right now. And I couldn't believe that I heard this, but basically this act is to allow individuals to come into your house, and if you've got a cough or somebody in your family has a cough or you have a fever or anything that they determine that shows that you have COVID-19, regardless of if you've been tested or not. They will also test people, but remember that testing already has been shown to be there to be a high rate of false positives. False positives meaning you don't have COVID-19, but the test shows it's false positive. It's showing up as positive, so they call it a false positive. We already know from the studies previously done as far back as 1984, but as recently as 2018 that individuals that did not have COVID-19 or coronavirus, even in the cat model, cats that had never been exposed to coronavirus tested positive if they had had a flu shot, if they had the trivalent or the covalent flu shot. And we don't know about the H1N1 shot. We don't know about the herpes zoster shot, the shingle shot. There's many other vaccines that people have gotten. We have no idea if people are going to be testing positive, have false positives based upon those tests. So the point is that the chance of them testing someone and them being high, them being positive, is pretty doggone high, even if the person doesn't have COVID-19. But they're going to use that to pull you or your loved ones, especially your children, away under pretense of public safety. They're going to say that your child has to be removed from you because you have COVID-19, and so to protect your child, we're going to take that child, or we're going to take your grandmother or your father or you and put you into quarantine. This is a load of rubbish, because if you're in your home isolated, who are you going to expose? All right? And if they're going to try to take you away from your family, the chances of you having infected your family, even if you did really have COVID-19, is about 99.9%. So this is a bunch of BS. They're using this as an attempt to further divide us as individuals. They divided us from our friends, from our social circles. Now they're dividing us from our own family units. This is the most ominous sign so far that we've seen. I want you to all wake up. I want you to pass this information on. I want you to tell every single person that you know what's happening. If you're not in the United States, I don't care. It's coming to your country as well. And if you're in the United States, you need to contact your representatives. Right now, if you go to askdrbuttar.com/ask, right underneath my image, you'll see that link. Go to that website, follow the information that it's asking, enter that information in, and then you're going to be taken to a page. The first
Wow. So I have a question.
Go ahead. Not for me or for
how is this in general? Like, how are they? I don't understand what's the end game here. If they can just go in your house and take like is this person suggesting take your children from you because of COVID?
Well, we just got to read the bill. That's the thing. So I mean, Ragusky sent us this. He sent this to me individually as well, and I read I saw the video, and then I went to the actual text. If you look at it, it's kind of vague. It's kind of very ambiguous. It says to authorize a Secretary of Health and Human Services to award grants to eligible entities to conduct diagnostic testing for COVID-19 and related activities such as contact tracing through mobile health units, and as necessary at individuals' residences and for other purposes. So
it's vague enough to allow anything to happen. Yeah.
It's so vague, but the whole process, Johnny, what they're saying is like, all right, listen, as a government inside like the deep state or whatever, we know that Fiorella is really becoming an agitator, whatnot. We got to break them up, whatever, like that. So we're gonna just show up their house with a trailer in a hazmat outfit, come in. Oh, Fiorella, you have signs. Take her away. Boom. We can't. We got to separate the under the disguise of we're protecting public safety.
Right.
We're controlling the pandemic. They've tried to find a way to wedge themselves where they can go, and it says into a personal residence. You know what I'm saying? So that's I think the fear of a lot of people going, whoa, whoa, whoa. You know, even when I talked to somebody about it today who was running for office, she even said, I don't know about that one. It's a really, really weird one. And, you know, she understands the civil liberties part, but she also understands the pandemic part, like a global pandemic. Well, what do we do is the case. But once again, kind of operate under this hiding.
But here's the thing. If they were really interested in actually protecting the safety of all Americans, they would make tests readily available to every single American, not only a test showing that you have COVID, but the antibodies test that would be able to let you know that you've had it, but you're not, you're asymptomatic. So maybe put those people back to work or find ways of getting the economy restarted back up. But they're obviously not concerned with that because they need to make money off of vaccines. And of course, we're going to continue talking about the many things that are out there right now. But that it just seems disingenuous to me that this is about public safety. Many times, as Pasta has mentioned before, during a crisis, the left and the right unite, or the center, I should say, the Democrats and Republicans unite in order to pass fascist type of legislation that impedes upon people's civil liberties, like the Patriot Act, for one. And there's, of course, like the vast amounts of cyber spying and all of these things that have been happening under the guise of public safety. And it is just so, it's the same thing that you recognize it, because they make the legislation so vague that maybe technically they might not necessarily go in and take your kid from you, but they could, because it's that vague, and they could go ahead and do it. And this, of course, rightly sparks fear into Americans, justifyingly so, because I mean, like, it's, your civil liberties are completely gone now between the Patriot Act and between this. And I don't know how many conspiracy theorists are out there looking at the number and saying, God, this is another sign of the end of times, and it's 2020 and everything has been a disaster, so why not bring it on? But like, it's just, it doesn't ring honest in saying that this is to protect Americans. And it's interesting to me how the liberals are so quick to point out that the right are fascist this and fascist that. This is fascism, and it got a lot of Democratic support. This is fascism to me. I don't think the pandemic I don't think the situation is like zombie apocalypse level to literally go into someone's home and test them in that way. The only mission of this whole thing is to really infringe on people's rights and to possibly mark individuals, because we've seen the war against progressives that this whole election cycle has shown. I think they're going further and further and further to quell any sort of resistance to Cold War imperialism, as well as, of course, the class war that we're seeing right now. I think this is much bigger than what it seems at first.
It's like I said, fam. It's usually when these things they introduce these bills and they implement these laws during serious crises. You know, they implemented the Patriot Act right after what? 9/11. And it was all about, we have to find and root out terrorism. So we need the ability to skip the warrant process, right? Which even when they didn't skip the warrant process, you know, our government has showed they're going to be shady as hell. All of the whatchamacallit, the FISA court, please forget about it. But they'll implement this stuff in a time of crisis, but they'll never pull it away. And what did Snowden show us with the Patriot Act? That they were spying on us 3 to 4 times as much as they were spying on Russia and China. So they weren't using that, you know, to do what they were supposed to do. And more than likely, when it comes to a situation like this, they'll just use it as a divide mechanism so they can maintain their control. Any type of rubbing or people out there making noise that can catch on fire, you know, we've experienced this so much of being a young, progressive kind of channel coming up, speaking the words that the mainstream media doesn't want us to speak. Well, that's a form of suppression. They'll start blacklisting us. They change the algorithm because of shows like us to make sure that we wouldn't grow at a faster pace to slow us down at the very least. Well, you can only think with a law like 66666, they're going to use it to their advantage to separate people even within their own household now if they want to. They shouldn't have a bill like that is that vague. And I understand the people who really want to take it serious, like the Rashida Tlaibs and the Tulsi Gabbards, but you got to look at what you're signing on for.
It's a slippery slope.
It's too slippery of a slope.
I completely disagree with that.
Let's take a look. I mean, like, I have like questions. It'd be like, okay, well, first of all, the number is 66666 is weird.
Illuminati sort of
You know the
shit.
symbolism, John.
Where's Alex Jones?
The acronym is really weird.
Trace.
There is one version of the bill.
Say trace. The word trace is really weird. Okay. So then, mobile health units. What defines a mobile health unit?
Right.
Answer that question.
I'm picturing
a military tank.
Right. I'm picturing most innocently like a blood donation kind of truck, but most like ominously it would be like a military tank.
Yeah. These are questions I would want to ask someone who co-sponsored this, right?
Yeah.
And as necessary, what is the stipulations for as necessary testing individuals and providing individuals with services relating to testing and quarantine at their residences? Let's see. A grant recipient under the section may use the grant funds in support of the activities described. So basically, they're trying to give money to the Secretary of the Health Department to give to other departments in the government that are newly formed, or maybe even private companies, or maybe
consulting
companies, whatever. So, in selecting grant recipients, priority to applicants proposing to conduct activities funded under this section in hotspots hotspots in medically underserved communities. What defines a hotspot? I guess where the map
more
shows
infected,
more
Yeah.
infected.
Yeah.
Applicants that agree is in hiring individuals to carry activities to hire residents of the area or community where the activities will primarily occur.
But those hotspots tend to be, guess where? In working class minority communities. We've seen the differences in, for instance, in the number of cases regarding COVID with the Black community in places like Michigan. And we have seen that the COVID affects working class communities at a much larger rate. Why? Because they don't have the same protections as the other upper classes. So to me, this is actually directly going to affect poor working class people of color. The majority, poor working class people in general, but I mean, by default, a lot of those people are going to be minorities.
Yeah. Hey, listen, they might get into a lot of
so you can get
places
into
in
the
the
immigration
South and
issue
shit.
too.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing
That's
too. It's
the
like,
other thing.
oh, we're testing people. Oh, he's an illegal immigrant. Let's get him rid of there. You know what I'm saying? And anybody like too, for like you're talking about like, you know, no offense to the shit kickers in the South, they'll go in there to get their guns. They're
Yeah.
gonna try to disarm them.
Well, now,
you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's the thing. Like, you know, most of the time, and we're gonna talk about that today. Stupid people shouldn't own guns, but right now with everything going on, a lot of people are saying,
Yeah.
I hope these stupid people with their guns are going to go out and start clearing the pattern to fight the government that's really trying to take us over, so that we can follow in behind them. So there's like this slippery slope of sorts.
But
going
also
on.
like you mentioned that, but it's like I've been seeing a lot on the left, people who are socialists be like, oh, I'm socialist, but I'm pro-gun because I don't trust the government. And here, that's the thing. Can I fault them for saying that when they're passing legislation like this?
Yeah.
No, because the whole point of the Second Amendment was the right to bear arms. Mainly it was supposed to be against the government. You could say it was taken advantage of by a lot of the white supremacy against the slaves, and then to prevent a possible uprising of slaves, which also is part of our history. But like, you always have to go back to that, oh, this is why people, a lot of libertarians and a lot of people who may be leftists on a lot of other issues when it comes to gun rights, they are pro-gun rights. And of course, you have the military industrial complex and the police so heavily armed. I'm not for disarming the working class people unless you're going to disarm the police and the military in the same way. That's what we have to talk about more versus like, oh, yes, I'm for guns or I'm not. You have to talk about what instances should people have guns. Like, if you're going to keep the police so heavily armed and they're going to be shooting people all the time, then you need to, give the working class their guns, because I don't trust those people to be having all the power when they already have so much power over us anyway.
Yeah, remember most of your police departments across this country got all the leftover stuff in Iraq that they pulled out of Iraq and brought over. They gave them to the police department. You know, you're talking military equipment over here for the police departments to use. And even me, I'm one of those people, fam. And that's something on the left that I think some people have to loosen up to. I understand they see a mass shooting, they immediately want to get rid of all the guns and stuff like that. But even myself, I'm worried. I said I want to possibly buy a piece. Remember, I was talking to Wesley about it, who shoots guns, and he goes, "Why? You want to get a piece because of your neighborhood?" I'm like, "No, I'm scared about the CIA coming in to try to get my ass, so I want a piece." But I mean, honest to God, that's how I feel. And I've shot in a gun maybe twice in my life, at a range and in the military. I'm not a gun guy. I don't want to own a gun. But now, even nowadays, I am so scared of what the government is doing on a regular basis. It's like, man, I need something to feel a little bit more secure. I understand. Yeah, I understand why all these people who have and that's the thing that we should talk about, fam. There are a lot of people who shouldn't own guns. We understand that. But the majority of American citizens who own guns are responsible gun-owning people that just want it for their own protection. Not so much protection from just people, from the government, but people around them, you know what I'm saying? Because when resources get scarce, people start stealing stuff. That's a whole other thing. So
by passing legislation like this, you are promoting and just empowering a sentiment of fear. Because people are going to say, oh, well, I can't trust the government. We're in the middle of a pandemic. I need to get guns. This is why we have seen a spike in the sale of guns. We have seen long lines in places that sell guns, in gun shops, because people are scared, and fear. What fear does is give you this need to protect yourself. And unfortunately, that's also going to cause more rifts between racial relations. And it has the poor fighting against each other. That could be a result of this, is the poor fighting against each other, not realizing that still our enemy are these fascists that are passing this type of legislation.
And they are fascist.
And so, we're going to get to that later as well. So we're just going to continue reading. Applicants that agree in hiring under this section to hire residents of the area community, it said that, and selecting the grant recipients under this section, the secretary shall ensure that grants are distributed across urban and rural areas, which is interesting. Nothing in this section shall be construed to supersede any federal privacy or confidentiality requirement, including the I'm not sure what this part means. Definitions in this section. The term eligible entity means a federally qualified health center. We have to look into what that means. A school-based health clinic. This is proportionate share hospital, an academic medical center, a nonprofit organization, an institution of higher education, a high school, any other type of entity, and then they have all those, and then they have any other type of entity that is determined by the secretary to be an eligible entity for purposes of the section. So that's where private companies go in, consultants and everything.
Sorry for yelling loud. Yep.
The term emergency period has the meaning given to the term term hotspot. Oh, okay, it means a geographic area. Yep. Term medically underserved community has been meaning to give term.
Look at that number 2, John, though. Read that. How long, once again, the Patriot Act was installed because of an emergency. We had 9/11. We had to root out evil terrorists. We had to go online. We had to break down the barrier of the whole process of getting a warrant, of tracing and everything, because we had to protect ourselves. Well, guess what? The Patriot Act has been renewed. It's still on to this day. So how long will the emergency period be for them to come on in? You know, COVID could be long gone. They walk in the house. Oh, you got COVID. We're bringing her. We got to get it. We got to get Fiorella Isabella on ice somehow. So let's use the cover of the, you know what I'm saying? But that's just one incident, and that's what they can do. They can actually, and but Dr. Batar was right. This is something that's very seriously concerning, especially for those civil liberties people out there, which nowadays I think this is the time when we tell those neo-progressives, fam, they got to listen to us when it comes to the civil liberties. It's just as important as everything they want to take place, because these are the ways they destroy the bills we want. This is the way they implement their authoritarian fascist government. They control our speech. They split us up. They do what they need to do. And if they have the keys to the kingdom to play whatever they want to play with, we'll never achieve progressive gains that we need, you know? So, John, anything else before we get to the next one?
The last thing is that, they define their terms, and then authorization of appropriations. To carry out the section, they are authorized to be appropriated $100 billion for fiscal year 2020.
Of your money, baby.
And such sums as may be necessary for each of fiscal year 2021 and any subsequent fiscal year during which the emergency period continues.
They can basically because it's so vague, they can write in whatever they need to just say, okay, this is going to last longer. We're going to add this much money, because it's up for determination by these people. So
Johnny, anything else before we get to another violation of our civil liberties?
100 billion. Look how many zeros that is. Okay. No, go ahead.
100 billion. What was it? I got to do it like this. Ooh, $100 billion. That was Dr. Evil when they laughed back in the days.